Hello, everyone, and welcome to my YPA draft analysis here. My name is NotQuiteCoz, coach of your Toronto punk rock. I'm very excited to be doing this league alongside a bunch of other YouTubers. And it's a Gen 7 based draft league, which is something a little different. I have not done that yet before. But when I first started getting into competitive Pokemon as a kid, I did play a ton of Gen 7, as that was the first kind of metagame that I ever played, specifically Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, which is what we are playing on. So I am very excited to actually get the opportunity to really compete in Draft League with some other YouTubers in the game, which is exactly kind of what I was dreaming of as like a 10-year-old kid when I watched Draft League YouTubers like A-Drive and Pokeaim, and was, playing Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon on Showdown. So this will actually not be on Showdown. It will be on basic like Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon using emulators, which is awesome because it's just different. It's not what you're used to, and it is finally, back to like what it was when I was watching as a 10-year-old kid, watching, people in the actual game do a draft league. So that's really exciting for me. So today I'm just going to go through the team that we drafted and how it is. So first of all, we have Greninja. Now, as you guys have seen, I have used Greninja before, and I do actually have it set to Shiny here, which is a little different than usual because Greninja was very different back in Gen 7 than how it functions in Gen 9. For one thing, with the ability here, Protean is now Old Protean, which is, you change your type and it stays that way. Or it doesn't stay that way, rather. You change your type for every move you use, which is very different than what we have in, Gen 9, where you stay whatever type you use. So this is really good, because, obviously Greninja's constantly changing types. You don't really know what's super effective against it. Now, it's not the bulkiest Vaughn, so that's not the worst thing in the world, but it does mean that you could randomly get some resistances, and it also does mean that on an offensive standpoint, you're always going to have stab on every move, which means this thing is just incredibly hard to switch into offensively. And otherwise, we know how Greninja works with that speed and special attack. Now, I'm mostly just going to be using Protean. Battle Bond is banned in Gen 7 because, again, it works differently than Gen 9. Instead of giving you those stat boosts that it does, kind of like a one-time Moxie, which, is something I've used to great effect and hopefully will in our PDL Finals match. But, it, transforms you into, like, a whole other Greninja. It's essentially just Mega. So, I do not have access to that. But I do have access to Protean, and that's hopefully going to be a really fun time. This thing should hit incredibly hard, and, there's just a lot less switch-ins back in the day. There's no, like, Corviknights and stuff. So, yup, I'm hoping that this just turns out to be a fun mon, and I do enjoy playing as Greninja. So, oh, and yeah, it's shiny because the reason that I didn't have it shiny in my Gen 9, in PDL, is because when you have Battle Bond Greninja, it can only possibly be male and not shiny. So for me to optimally play every single week, I have to set it to male and not shiny so that people do not know whether or not it's Protean or Battle Bond, just for safety. But that's not the case in this league, as I can only bring Protean and Torrent. So yeah, our next pick here, we have Mega Kangaskhan. So this, for whatever reason, is not set to be Gen 7 draft. I thought I had set it to be that, but yeah, so now this looks a little better. But anyway, so we got Mega Kangaskhan here. Mega Kangaskhan is banned to Ubers in a lot of formats back in Gen 7, Gen 6, and that, even though it was nerfed going into Gen 7, and that is due to a couple of things. First of all, its bulk stats and its offense are obviously really good, as well as its speed. It's kind of good at literally everything here. With the right allies, you can always outspeed stuff too, which is going to be really cool. It's a big threat, but what's great about it is Parental Bond. So Parental Bond is, you attack once and then you attack a second time. And even though that second time only does 1/4 damage now, it's still really nice, because it means that you get to cause certain effects twice. Like, Fake Out's always cool, because it's just extra damage on top of Fake Out. So they're building a 50 base power move now. So you're essentially multiplying all your moves by another 1/4 base power. And that's obviously crazy. It's like an additional boost to everything, but they're also all multi-hit. So you break sturdy, you you break Focus Sash, if moves have effects, they come in twice. So Power Up Punch, which is now, you know, base 50. It's base 50, but it raises your attack by 2. And the second one takes that attack boost already. So you're essentially +1 when you're using that extra 50% of the base, that extra 25% of the base power. And then that sets you up for the rest of the game. Stuff like that is huge. Seismic Toss is banned because of how that works. It just means that you're always doing 125 damage, which is crazy. But yeah, other than that, you know, like double Sucker Punch. I think it's a lot of stuff like Yawn, Toxic. Obviously, everything gets Toxic. Roar, Substitute. It just gets a lot of moves and a lot of coverage. So it's just a super strong option as a Mega. But yeah, I'm excited to use this with Parental Bond. It's something I haven't really used because I played a lot of OU and this thing was not allowed. But I'm excited to use it. Next up, we got Shaq here. Our Shaquille O'Neal, Tapu Bulu, and Kobe will come next. And you guys will probably be able to figure out what duo I went with here. I was towards the end of the draft, so I had the ability to, like, draft not twice consecutively, but, like, in a short period of time. So I saw the opportunity to potentially grab these next two together, considering how good this combination is in something like a Gen 9 meta. Or, sorry, Gen 7 meta. And so the first is Tapu Bulu. This is actually one of my Z captains, too. So in this league, you choose Z captains kind of like you choose Terra captains, and the way you choose the type of the crystals is, again, it's just like Terra captains. You get 1 stab and 2 non-stab. Obviously, that varies from league to league, but that's how we're going to do it, and that's how, you know, the primary rule set is for Gen 7 draft. So, obviously here, I've got stuff like Taunt and Toxic for, like, and Whirlwind and stuff for, like, support moves, which this does get. But you're not really using it as a support. Use that 130 attack. So with that 130 attack, I'm able to do stuff such as Z Woodhammer, which is going to be really cool, in grassy terrain, which is obviously strong. So this thing automatically gets like leftovers too, with that grassy surge, which is nice. It's not quite as good as a setter as like something like a Rillaboom, because you get no U-turn, you get no grassy glide, but still really strong. It does get Horn Leech, which is just really nice because that means you're healing, and it's going to do a lot more damage to that Grassy Surge. It can bulk up Sweep if it wishes to. It does not get any physical fairy moves, which sucks, so you're kind of, you know, locked into your like 85 special attacks are right, but for the most part, you're just going to be using your other moves. You do have Nature's Madness, though. And yeah, so overall, this thing is just super duper strong offensively. I have, you know, obviously, this is more of like a bulky attacker, and so this is a all-out attacker. I wanted something a little more physical, and I wanted the grass type to pair with my water type. So I also needed a fighting resist, as currently I had 2 fighting on, so I wanted a fighting resist. So that's what we ended up going. Tapu here. Next up, I went into Kobe Hawlucha, Grassy Seed, Unburden, and that is probably just going to be the strategy. Obviously, I can bring it in different veins, and it will still be ridiculously strong. Hawluchas is such a great option. Gets a lot of nice little support options, but obviously it also gets like it's pure offense. The 118 speed and the 92 special attack allow this thing to be a fantastic pivot if it wants it to be. There's just a lot of different things you actually can do with Hawlucha, especially in older metas. It's not exactly always restricted to being a seed abuser, which is cool. You know, it has a bunch of different uses, and I wanted to get it again here just as another, like, let's speed up the team a little bit, get some more offense, pairs well with the Grassy Seed, as another fighting resist. So overall, the first 4 is just really strong. So next, I need a pure Bulkmon, as currently I just had, like, 4 offense, and I wanted someone who was a little more support heavy. So I went with Bronzong. Originally, I was going to have Mesprit in this slot, but I realized that I ended up needing more, I needed the Steel type, as if we didn't get a Steel type now, they were going to start to get low tier, and I need like a good Steel type. So we've got Stealth Rock, Toxic, and stuff like that as support options. Obviously, it does not heal outside of leftovers, but we do have stuff like Wish support from like Kanga, you could hypothetically do. and I believe that's really all in terms of the wish support and the team, but we can keep it alive hypothetically. But yeah, I mean, this thing is obviously like good for support, as it has a couple of different support moves here: Stealth Rock, Toxic, Trick, and stuff like that. Not quite some of the ones it has like nowadays. Like it does have like Thunder Wave nowadays, as opposed to a couple of other like kind of support moves. It has dual screens. And then obviously you have the offensive side where it does do solid damage and will live for a while. It does play a little differently. Sorry. I don't know why I'm yawning so much. I did just wake up, but I'm not really that tired. It's a little different of a support bond than it is nowadays, but it's always been a strong support, which is sitting there on things and being able to tank. With the 116. So I am happy with this pick. Next up we got one of the best defensive mons, especially in old gen. We got Donphan. This thing was Great Tusk before it was Great Tusk. It wasn't ever doing things as Great Tusk does now. It was still always up there with Earthquake, Rapid Spin, Stealth Rock, and Knockoff just being the absolute centerpiece of its core, which is kind of like what you saw from Great Tusk, except it has like fighting and just the better typing and the better stats and whatever. But it's also got quintessential coverage with stuff like Play Rough and Seed Bomb. And then you've got Ice Shard, which is always have, which is a great little priority for it. Stuff like Gyro Ball and Dunk Shot are some of the crazier stuff that... Dunk Shot in particular is one of the crazier things it used to get. This thing's coverage has always been off the wall. It's a great physically defensive Mon and Rapid Spinner and Stealth Rock. So it's always been a great answer to things. I needed the ground type, and I wanted a little more bulk. I wanted the Stealth Rocker. I wanted a Rapid Spinner. So this thing just kind of fit everything. Especially, I'm surprised I got it so late in the draft. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so I got it 6th overall, or 6th or not overall, but I got it 6th in the draft, which, like, you know, in modern day Gen 9 draft leagues, you see this thing go like round 3. Sometimes I'm not even choking. So I was a little surprised that I was able to get it so low, but when I saw the opportunity, I knew I had to grab it. Next up, I went with Araquanid here, Rui. And it's me. I mean, I saw the Spadef, but obviously this thing's main job is Sticky Web. This thing was a little better of a webber back in the day. Even though Rabombi was introduced the same gen, it just had some other tools, like Scald and like stuff that allow this thing to just be slightly better at what it does. Not better than Rabombi, but better than what it is in Gen 9. Obviously, you do have stuff like Water Bubble, just to absolutely nuke things, even if your attack isn't super high. It still just makes it so that liquidation hits extremely hard, and you do have to be worried about Araquanid offensively. It also does tank special hits relatively well, which is always cool. But yeah, the main reason I needed this is because I needed I wanted webs. I didn't necessarily need webs, but it does help out like Tapu Bulu and Kanga a bit. And even though, you know, something like Hawlucha and Greninja are already going to be fast enough, I decided that this will help my team a little bit more. Quick break around midsection of this video, and I just want you to be able to see this beautiful shiny Araquanid. Look at how good that looks in game. If you guys are enjoying how that shiny Araquanid looks, as well as how the rest of my Pokemon look for this upcoming season of YPA, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Next up, I went with Arcanine here. Arcanine is a mon that I've actually wanted to use for a while, even in Gen 9. I've considered it on a few different teams. I just like the support that it brings with Intimidate and stuff. I like the fact that it can be defensive or offensive. Obviously, the stats are originally built to be a little more offensive, 110, 100, but 90, 80, 80 is actually solid bulk, and so is 95 speed. So 95 speed is another mon that gets like Sticky Web assistance, but yeah, you've got 80 defense and 80 special defense here. So it gets obviously a lot of moves like Extreme Speed and Flare Blitz here. Oh, no, never mind. It gets Morning Sun and Will-O-Wisp, which are obviously super good for support. And in terms of other things you could do on support, it does have Intimidate. I mean, you could also bring stuff like Justified or Flash Fire if you really wanted to. Set up moves like Agility, sure. Ghost Combat. I'm actually surprised it gets that in Gen 7. But sure, it does. And then like Roar is good on defense, but then and Reflect is good on defense. But obviously you have all the good moves like on offense, like Flare Blitz and Iron Head, and I guess you could say Wild Charge and Outrage. close combat, crunch. So obviously a lot of strong things here. So yeah, a lot of strong moves. I'm really excited about that. I could do a couple of fun little techs in a couple of weeks. Nice little defensive fire if we wanted it to, and I need a little more bulk again. So having a little more bulk and support is nice. Next up I went with Noivern here. I was able to get Noivern pretty late, which I was excited about. 123 speed, 97 special attack. I did not have a dragon type, so I wanted to complete my Fairy Dragon Steel core. So we got Noivern, Tapu Bulu, and the the Bronzong, and I completed my Fire Water Grass core, the previous pick, with Greninja, Bulu, Arcanine, which is always cool. Another Defog user in Noivern, so we have 2 Defoggers and a Rapid Spinner, so I'm not super worried about hazards, even though the 2 Defoggers are a little more offensive based, and, you know, no heavy duty boots in Gen 7, which sucks, but that's okay. I do have removal. Noivern here is just able to hit things like relatively hard just because of how high DPS its moves are, and I was also given this access to Z moves, so that is scary. As something like a Z Hurricane, I don't have to worry about missing, and I could potentially nuke something. So just, that's always something that the opponent has to worry about, is the fact that I can guarantee my hits, and I can even boost them. This thing can be a little bulkier, I guess. You have 70, 80, or 85, 70, 80, which isn't awful. So you can run like Moonlight, a little more defensive with Defog, but I'm often not going to do that. But this thing gets a lot of fun offensive moves. Hurricane, Boom Burst, Fire Blast. Does it actually get Fire Blast? No, it gets Flamethrower and Heat Wave though. And then you get, like, you know, obviously your U-turn to be a strong pivot. You have your Hurricane and your Draco Meteor so that you can hit super hard with Stab. So this thing's just super appealing in that access. And it's fast. I like speed. So I have 3 mounts that are really high speed, so I pretty much control speed a lot of the games, which is something that I have used to success in a lot of other leagues. As long as I control the speed, then I get to be a lot more careful with the rest of my EVs. And just overall apply some extra EVs in places that I otherwise wouldn't be able to, which is fine. Those extra EVs will come in clutch and win me games at times, which is always awesome. And then finally here, I went with Garbodor. I needed the Grounded Poison to round out my draft, even though this thing is relatively low tier. It actually has a lot of good things going for it. It gets access to a bunch of different moves, such as Pain Split to heal, but it also gets stuff like Spikes. So this thing is another Spike setter, even though we have seen that in Greninja already. Spikes, Toxic Spikes are obviously both really huge. And it gets solid offensive options. Its stats are nothing out of the ordinary. 80, 82, 82. Again, like, it's reasonable bulk, and then you've got like your mediocre stats kind of everywhere, but it ends up doing a little bit of everything. And if you set up correctly, it gets like set up in multiple different areas. It kind of does a little bit of everything. Even if it doesn't do it super well, but it's at minimum at least a solid hazard stacker, at least back for now. And it gets a couple of different abilities that I could run. Realistically, it's either gonna be like, either Aftermath on like probably a defensive set. If it's a little more offensive, we run Reek Armor. It also has access to 3 Z crystals. I believe so. By 3 Z crystals, this is Dragon, Flying, and I think I went with normal because Boom Burst, but I could change that at some point to like Fire, or even Fighting with like Focus Blast. On Garbodor, I have Poison, Normal, Ground, because I wanted something a little bit stronger than Stomping Tantrum at the time, and it is something that Poison and Normal both can't hit as Z crystals, and then Normal because this thing gets stuff like Explosion, so Z Explosion is something that could obviously be really powerful, which makes me kind of want to change Noivern to Fire, but I mean, we'll see how the season goes, I guess. And then Bulu, I think, is Grass, it is Rock, and it is Fighting, I think, the types I had chose. So yeah, overall that thing's just trying to hit as hard as humanly possible. And yeah, so that's gonna be the team, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this team builder, and I hope you guys enjoy the season that is coming up here. I do plan on, you know, obviously doing a little bit, maybe more of the graphics here throughout the season, considering I am able to upgrade from Showdown for this league. We shall see what happens. I hope all you guys enjoyed the video. I will see you all in the next one.